playing at least one game for each character in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. That's the challenge I set myself at the tail end of last year. I've been streaming my progress on Twitch, and now I've decided to start documenting this journey on YouTube as well. We started this challenge with Mario, and we'll be ending it with Sora. Welcome to a new video, everyone. Today we are looking at Fox, and I have to tell ya, picking a game to play for Fox was extremely difficult. I'm not all that familiar with the series, and I had to take into account what game I would later play for Falco and Wolf. I seriously considered Star Fox Adventures, since Fox gets more time to shine as a character. But I didn't really have a reliable way to play it at the time, and it did feel a little wrong. Fox is the main character. I feel like the game I choose should better represent the series as a whole. Star Fox 64 then became the obvious answer, right? Well, no. As I said, I had to consider what I would play for Falco and Wolf, which didn't leave me much to choose from. So in the end, I decided to look back at where the series began with the original Star Fox. Sure, it's not much of a showcase for Fox's character, but it will still give me a good idea on what the series will become, while also giving me a new game to experience, as I had never played this game before. The original Star Fox is an on-rail space shooter game which first came out in 1993 for the Super Nintendo. It made use of the FX chip that allowed it to make use of 3D graphics. For my playthrough of the game though, I played it on the SNES Online app on the Switch, and I fully admit to using the app's built-in features such as save states. The game uses a life system that makes you start from the beginning upon losing. A system I consider to be extremely outdated. I tried to be fair though, making a new state at checkpoints and after completing levels. I was also joined in my Twitch chat by Star Fox speedrunner Snakemadness, which was a real treat as he helped guide me through some of the more difficult parts of the game, as well as explain to me some of the strats involved in speedrunning through an on-rail shooter at a faster time. His details will be in the description below. He really helped make this playthrough an even more memorable experience. The story of the original Star Fox is simple. Andros has invaded the Lilat system and it's up to Team Star Fox to defeat him and his army. With you in control of the leader Fox, you must choose between one of 3 routes that will take you to Venom, where Andros hides. Each route is designed to be a different difficulty to each other, with the middle route, level 1, being the easiest, and the bottom route, level 3, being the hardest. Each route will always start at Corneria and ends with a showdown with Andros on Venom. The game is also really short. With the assist from Snakemadness and avoiding game overs using the Switch save states, I was able to beat each level in a single sitting. The game was definitely designed with a high score in mind, as at the end of each level it will always show you how many points you scored, as well as a vague percent meter that the game doesn't really explain. I was actually quite pleased with the core gameplay of this game though. It's a fun loop that I can see myself going back to from time to time. It's a simple control scheme. Fire lasers, smart bombs, accelerate, brake and dodge left and right. The game has 4 control schemes, so pick the one you want. I thought you should know that when Peppy calls out to use your retros, he means use your brakes. The game is vague. I'm pretty sure this isn't explained anywhere in the game. The game is severely held by its performance. The frame rate of this game is awful, and not at all consistent. Now, frame rate is not something I normally make a big deal of, and even here it feels like it's part of the old school charm of the game. But it's so choppy and laggy. In fact, it's trying to minimize this lag that speedrunners are able to score better times by trying to fly in places where less enemies spawn so you can get through a level faster. During levels set in space, the game will encourage a first-person view, which can also help with the frame rate. But I prefer to play in third person to get a better feel of my whereabouts. I just find it easier to dodge enemy fire when I can see my ship. Speaking of levels, there are two kinds of levels. Those set on the planet and those set in space. Levels on planets force you to take a third-person perspective. Levels in space default you to first person as mentioned before. Despite the obvious hardware limitations, they do manage to keep each level interesting. You'll start off with avoiding the skyscrapers of Corneria, but eventually you'll end up flying through an asteroid field, down the narrow halls of a ship, over a dragon-infested ocean, a volcanic planet, a narrow path by the city of Venom. And of course, you can't forget, polygons in space! But seriously, they do all feel very distinct and don't repeat themes that often, especially on the same route. In the end, they do all amount to fly around, shoot enemies, dodge incoming fire and objects. However, each level does end with a boss fight. These vary in quality. Some are super fun, while others are just a pain. These are probably the hardest parts of the game too. I am not ashamed to admit that I took advantage of save states for many of these. If I had to start the whole game over because of these bosses, I never would have gotten to the end of this game. Andros is especially tough on the third route. I found a lot of bosses were best dealt with quickly or risk getting overwhelmed, though there were exceptions. Time to talk about presentation, and this is probably the game's lowest low and its highest high. We've already talked about the graphical limitations. Most objects in this game have no textures. Most enemies really are just a collection of polygons that vaguely resemble ships. Everything has single block colors. It is charming in its own way. This was definitely a game that tried to do more than it could handle. Super Nintendo just wasn't ready for 3D graphics, even with the FX chip. But one thing the game does incredibly well is its music. This soundtrack is just a banger. The Corneria theme stands out as one of the best themes under Nintendo's repertoire. It's all fantastic. I love the soundtrack of this game, especially after becoming so familiar with a few of these songs in Smash. In conclusion, Star Fox is a fun game that shows its age. Given how short it is, it's more of a novelty unless you decide to go after high scores or speedruns. But I think that novelty aspect is to the game's benefit. It's super easy to pick up and play. Next time you're feeling bored and don't know what to do, give Star Fox a go. It's on the Switch, so if you already pay online, you don't have to pay anything else. Give it a crack, you might be surprised. I can even see myself returning it on those occasions here and there. I'm glad I chose to play the original Star Fox game for Fox, even if it potentially wasn't the best game to get to know Fox himself. I'm finally caught up! Took longer to get the Star Fox video out, but not without lack of trying. I was having trouble figuring out how to put into words my feelings for this game. Having COVID didn't help matters alongside a few other life projects. But it's done, and I'm happy for it. From now on, you'll be able to catch me playing through the games on Twitch, and as soon as I'm done, I'll get to work on the YouTube video. Be sure to follow me there, and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want to follow along with me. Next game we cover will be Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, which I still need to finish. Until then, bye!